So today I want to make a video about why I believe that we should stay in the EU. I actually made a video about it last week. It was, however, over an hour long, and quite frankly, I wouldn't want to listen to myself drone on for over an hour, so I don't see why anyone else in their right mind would also want to listen to me drone on for over an hour. So I've decided to split into some more kind of digestible chunks, and today I want to cover the often said Brexit argument: we don't make our own laws. Now, I want to start by saying that's a frankly ridiculous argument, but I will concede it has a degree of validity to it. It is true that any laws that we make in the UK have to be consistent with EU law, for example. There is a very good reason for that. I'm going to go into that in a bit. But also I want to say that it's also true that we have to listen to the European Court of Justice and their rulings on our law. So, for example, at the moment, the UK government's position is that it wants to deny prisoners the right to vote. Now, many people think that's quite reasonable, myself included. However, the European Court of Human Rights, I believe it is, actually says that it's against their human rights to deny them the right to vote. Now, for better or for worse, that is the European Court of Human Rights judgment. And even though actually it contravenes what I think should be the case, it is, at least, a check on power in exactly the same way that the US Supreme Court is exactly that. It's a check on power of the President and Congress, I believe. It makes sure that everything that the government do is actually, constitutional. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, even though I disagree with its ruling in this case. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to have checks on power, just as I don't necessarily think that governments always have their citizens' best interests in mind. But really, the whole idea that we don't make our own laws in the UK is actually frankly ridiculous. If it was not the UK making our laws, but actually the EU making all our laws, then wouldn't the UK's laws be exactly the same as in Sweden and France and Germany and Italy, or any of the other 27 member states of the EU? That the UK law is not the same as the other member states. It's not even the same as Ireland, and we used to be the same country until less than 100 years ago. It's not even an argument. We make our own laws, and that's why they're different. And if, like I said, we do have to listen to what the EU says about our laws, so our laws have to be consistent with EU law. Like I said, there is a very good reason for that, and that is commonality. We live in a single market. You've probably heard that phrase being said a lot. And that means we actually have to have commonality with a lot of things. So, for example, a kilogram of cabbages in the UK has to be exactly the same as a kilogram of cabbages in Italy. Now, that's not a law that the UK has power over. We don't set what a kilogram is. It's a common measurement. It ensures commonality between the UK and Italy in terms of weights and measurements, and that's entirely sensible. Given that it's also a single market, as I have said, it also means that if, for example, the UK allowed a working week of, 56 hours or 60 hours or 72 hours or whatever, if that was the working week in the UK, and for example in Sweden the working week was actually legally reduced to 24 hours a week, then that would actually place quite a large advantage on the UK. So the single market is there to make sure that it's a level playing field across all of Europe, and that benefits us as well. It's not just hindering the UK, it is it also helps us. So, you know, like I said, there is a very good reason why there is commonality of laws across the single market, and if that, you know, means surrendering our, you know, our rights to make our own laws to ensure commonality across the single market, okay, we lose some of our independence, you can say, but I think we get a lot more back from that as a result, rather than, you know, just giving up our independence. And to be honest, you know, you can't have things your own way all the time. It's childish to assert that you can in every relationship, whether it's a relationship between 28 member states or, you know, two people who are deciding to, you know, what colour to paint their bathroom. Compromise is necessary in all relationships, and, you know, if we have to compromise on certain things to ensure commonality, that's the way of the world. It's as I said, it's quite frankly childish to assert that you can have things your own way and to insist that you should have things your own way. So the UK, everyone knows, drives on the left-hand side of the road. It would be frankly ridiculous for the UK to insist on every country in the EU driving on the left-hand side of the road just because we do. Now, as it turns out, there are perfectly good reasons to suggest that every country drives on the left-hand side of the road. Firstly, the dominant hand is actually, well, most people's dominant hand, most people are right-handed, dominant hand is on the steering wheel, and it's the dominant hand that has better motor skills, and this potentially leads to fewer collisions because, you know, people are more in control of their car. Now, it's one thing to say that, you know, it's a sensible idea to have that everyone drives on the left-hand side of the road for a very good reason, but it's another thing completely to say that every EU country should drive on the left-hand side of the road just on the basis that we do it. And, you know, like I said, given that it is a single market and we do need commonality across a wide range of things, and things that you probably and I probably haven't even considered, insisting that everyone does it our way instead of reaching some kind of consensus, which might involve compromise, is a pretty stupid and childish way of going about, you know, politics, basically. So, in all, okay, if we don't have a complete say over all of our laws, but it is us making the laws, and if we have to abide by certain things, abide by EU law or agreements that we've made, then unfortunately, as I said, that is actually the way of the world, and compromise is necessary. So we do make our own laws, and it's, you know, it's pretty dishonest to say that we don't. That's it for this video. The next video will be on you know, people saying that the EU is too expensive, and I'll get around to making that at some point.